Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Camper Report. And today we have got a very special guest for you, Ross Brendel from SKOR North. I had him on a couple years ago, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself. We've got an exciting show for you guys today. We obviously had one of the games of the year last night, which had me on my seat the entire night. And then we're going to talk Vikings because he obviously covers them. And then some NFC Championship predictions. And then we're going to finish it off with some college football playoff talk. So, Ross, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but thanks for coming on today. It's a pleasure.
Not a problem. It is good to see you again. I will say this. Here's how exciting the Sunday night football game was. I am now way too old, Benjamin, to stay up that late on what I call a school night, and I stuck with it the entire way. That's how entertaining the Sunday night game was. No, it's good to be back. I work with I guess we'll call it an outfit out of the Twin Cities called SKOR North. We cover pretty much every team in the state of Minnesota: Minnesota Vikings, Minnesota Timberwolves, Minnesota Wild, Minnesota Twins, Minnesota Golden Gophers, and plenty more as well. So SKOR North on either YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So it's fun to be here. You said, do you want to talk football? And my schedule is actually wide open this week. It's always wide open. So here we go. Let's do this.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, when I was looking for guests, I was like, man, all these 49ers, like, we're in the heat of the season. But I know a guy who his team is, like, slightly out of it. He's now looking forward to the NFL draft. And the Vikings are that team where it's like, I was looking at their record, and I was like, they're really 8-8. Like, even with all the drama you guys had this season with J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson, and it's like you still were able to win 8 games. I think that to me is impressive and just speaks to how good of a coach O'Connell is. But it's also going to make this offseason very interesting because there's a lot of questions surrounding the Vikings right now. So
yeah, it's a great talker. The Minnesota Vikings are always a great talker, especially in the state of Minnesota, whether they're 14-3 or 3-14.
Yeah.
They're the number one team on everybody's mind. The Minnesota Timberwolves have given them a run for their money the last few years for obvious reasons, back-to-back Western Conference Finals. The Viking season is just really odd. I don't know if you've seen the graphic, and I'm going to get the years wrong, but I think it's going back to 2015. They basically make the playoffs, then they miss the playoffs. They make the playoffs, then they miss the playoffs. They make the playoffs, then they miss the playoffs, which is why I forgot who it was, but I saw somebody qualified for, the Texans for like the third straight year. I think it's the Texans, but could have been somebody else. I can't remember. But I'm like, wow, teams are allowed to do that. You can make the playoffs in back-to-back seasons or more than one time. Yeah. It's kind of interesting to see. But yeah, the Vikings, they're in an interesting spot. I think the elephant in the room, I'll get this out of the way. It's very easy to sit back now and say the Vikings made the wrong choice. I still think if you take the long view, I understand the choice that they made. And what I'm talking about is letting Sam Darnold go to Seattle. Another narrative to get out there. The Vikings tried to keep Daniel Jones. He chose to go to Indianapolis because he figured he'd have a better chance to start there. And he ended up being right. The Vikings drafted a quarterback with a plan of, we are going to turn this thing over at some point, and we need to get better in a spot with our cap. And we need to try and build with a long-term quarterback in mind. That was not going to be Kirk Cousins at that stage of his career, which is why they moved on. If he was healthy, I feel like J.J. McCarthy may have played fairly early on in year one. Now, Sam Darnold may not have ever given him that opportunity. J.J. McCarthy probably would have had to win the job before they broke camp or preseason of last year. But then you fast forward to this year where you think he's ready to play. And for a couple different reasons, it turned out maybe he wasn't. When he did play, he didn't look prepared to play. And now this is the third injury he's dealt with this year. And if he starts on Sunday for the Minnesota Vikings, he will have started 10 games in 2 seasons. And I can tell you that was not the plan. And that is the spot where the Vikings are in a tough spot, because even with the, we'll call it 9 starts, the results have been mixed at best. At times, you can see why they liked him, why they took him 10th overall. At times, you see a guy who looks like he is standing in the middle of traffic and he's a deer and cars are coming both ways. So they're going to have, and I don't think anybody knows the answer. I don't think anybody in the organization really knows the answer. I would tell you my hunch is they will explore things like every team will. They'll make some calls to see who's available, but they're not going to make a deal just to make a deal. It's going to have to be for the right player and on the right terms. Joe Burrow's obvious. If Joe Burrow was available and the Vikings could swing it, they absolutely would do it. The bad news for the Minnesota Vikings, there are probably 12 other teams that will be making that same call. Kyler Murray, I don't know. Does he do anything for you? He kind of does for me, but I don't want to give up a lot for Kyler Murray. So my hunch is, and I believe best case scenario for the Minnesota Vikings is insert backup or veteran here. I don't know who that is. We'll call it a Sam Darnold type again, who comes in and challenges JJ McCarthy in the offseason. It's a legitimate competition. Okay. Vikings probably turn it back over to JJ McCarthy. And if all things go well, he's your starter and he never looks back. The main problem right now is that he's never on the field. So it's really tough to judge a guy when every time they put him out there, he plays for a couple weeks and then he gets injured. Now, again, I'm not saying he wants to get injured. Nobody does. But that was a really long-winded answer, but it's a really darn tough spot for the Minnesota Vikings. And honestly, I think all options are on the table, but I do think cooler heads will prevail. And more than likely what's going to happen here is, again, JJ McCarthy will go to camp next year with, maybe you have a name in front of you. Heck, it could be Kirk Cousins again. Who
Mac Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mac Jones, Mac Jones is interesting, okay? And I'll give you this. Here's why Mac Jones is interesting. It kind of fits the model of Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins to a degree, right? A guy who, if you put him in an offense with talent and playmakers around him, it would seem like he can do the job. Now, you guys are remembering really good Mac Jones. I'm also remembering a game where the Vikings beat Mac Jones and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they turned the ball over 3 or 4 times in that game and still won. Now, on Mac Jones, okay, this is where I think you can play this game all day long. Was Mac Jones bad because he was playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars? And is he good because he's playing for a talent-laden San Francisco 49ers offense? I would guess it's somewhere in the middle.
Would you say that we were talent-laden because, like, the players that he was throwing to when he started was not even George Kittle, because Kittle was out for 6 weeks. He was playing for, his number one receiver was Kendrick Bourne, and then Pearsall was out for a while as well. So it was Kendrick Bourne, Demarcus Robinson, and obviously anytime you have Christian McCaffrey, that's easier. But I think with O'Connell, and then if you retain, and we'll get into Justin Jefferson in a little bit, but if you retain Justin Jefferson, you've already got the piece in the second receiver, Jordan Addison, that you've got. He's a great receiver as well. And then if you can, I don't know, where is your guys' running back along in his career? Because I know that Jones is kind of older. I would think running back is a position you address this year.
Well, and I think that could be something that will get addressed in the draft, maybe again, even in the offseason. When I think about Mac Jones, and I know I'm talking to 49ers fans here, so I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Oh, go ahead.
Somebody may give that. I don't think the Vikings are going to give a second-round pick for Mac Jones, because inherently it creates a problem right away. Yeah. If you give a second-round pick for Mac Jones, he's your starter. Yeah, I don't think the Vikings are willing to say right now that Mac Jones is a better quarterback next year than JJ McCarthy can be. Is he? He probably is. But you have to put yourself in the Vikings position of, we have worked with this guy, kid, for 2 years. And let's keep in mind, he's a kid. He's 23 years old, youngest quarterback in the NFL. So I think that creates a problem right away. You would rather take a version of Mac Jones that is a free agent that you can just go sign and give $15 million to for 1 year and say, go compete with this kid for the job. And if you win it, great. If you don't, guess what? You're going to hold a clipboard and make $15 million. And by the way, the kid has an injury history. So even if you lose the job, you can still end up starting games for us and winning the job back.
So, but that's also like a question I have for you is, who do you think made that decision to draft McCarthy? Is it O'Connell? Do you think he's willing? Because I know personally, we kind of went through this with Trey Lance. Like, is O'Connell, because Kyle Shanahan was not willing to die on that Trey Lance hill. As soon as he ended up playing subpar or just, I mean, we had a very veteran heavy team those years, so I can understand why we benched him. But is Kevin O'Connell willing to potentially risk a Justin Jefferson or potential veterans that want to win now to die on that McCarthy hill? Or is he kind of the guy who in that draft room was like, I don't know, but drafted him instead? Is McCarthy his guy, and is he willing to give up a lot to see the development through?
Yeah, I think the answer, much like anything, is very layered. I do think it's pretty clear and evident, like many, they wanted Drake May. I think Drake May was their guy. They would love to have moved up. They didn't have enough assets. Also, by the way, a few years ago, they more than likely tried to move up to get Justin Fields and even Anthony Richardson. So this is a front office that will, if they like a guy or want a guy, independently say whatever you want, whether the player has worked out or not. If they identify somebody that they want, they're going to go and get him. I think on JJ McCarthy, it's twofold. He probably was not their first choice, but that doesn't mean that they don't like him. As far as who made the ultimate decision to draft him, Kevin O'Connell's on record in local media here, and I think maybe even national media, saying he has stopped the Vikings. I'm not using exact words here, but basically he has said, I've crushed a lot of dreams and told people we're not drafting that quarterback. So I don't think the Vikings draft in any round. I don't think the Vikings would draft a quarterback that Kevin O'Connell did not sign off on.
Yeah.
Again, I still think there's a lot to like about JJ McCarthy. I think the bigger problem right now is that he just has not been on the field to develop. And I'll say this, I thought going into this year, I thought the Vikings were a 10-win team.
Yeah.
I thought there would naturally be regression to the mean. You're not going to go 13-4 and follow that up by going 13-4 with a first-year starting quarterback. So to your point, it is a bit of a compliment that the team is going to win 8 or 9 games this year when they have started Carson Wentz, the corpse of Carson Wentz, JJ McCarthy, Max Brosmer twice. And I love Max Brosmer. I love the U of M. Okay. But the plan was never for Max Brosmer to even take one snap kneeling down a football this year. Right? Like that was never in the calculus. Max Brosmer was to learn the offense, be another quarterback in the room, and maybe year 2 or 3, you're the number 2 and we feel good about you. Yeah, now, exactly. In Max's defense, if I can continue to bloviate here, I thought he was fine when he came in against the Giants, but then again, pretty much everybody else is. For what they asked him to do against the Lions on Christmas Day, I thought he was okay. I thought they absolutely hung him out to dry and set him up to fail against Seattle. I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
And a lot of that falls on Kevin O'Connell trying to run his offense with an undrafted free agent quarterback like he has a 10-year quarterback in Kirk Cousins. And that's about as critical as I'll get of Kevin O'Connell because I largely still believe in him.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys have the 15th pick this year, and so currently. And so getting a quarterback that way, it's tough because when you win 8-9 games, but your team's really not going to make the playoffs ever, you never feel like that. And then you win still a decent amount of games, like getting that middle round pick is just going to be so tough for you guys. I mean, if you wanted to start over, but it seems like you're you're kind of still on that train a little bit. But I wanted to switch the gears. Oh, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is one of the things with this group of ownership, if Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, and this would never happen because it would end up costing Kevin O'Connell his job, but if they went into ownership and said, guys, we feel like what's best for the long-term health of this franchise is to bottom out and be 3-14 next year, the Wilfs would say you can both pack your things and go. Because the Wilfs, to a degree, they basically believe if you can get to the playoffs at 9-8 or 14-3, it doesn't matter. They just want you in the playoffs because it gives you a chance. I would argue more of what you say. I've said for years, my slogan to most teams in professional sports is to be bad to get good. You don't often see 500 teams that are stuck in terminal mediocrity end up all of a sudden turning it around and going on to win a championship. It does happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but oftentimes the path again to relevancy and having a long-term window to compete is unfortunately to have a really bad season or two. And this is a franchise that doesn't do it. It's still one of the most winningest franchises in all of NFL. I think they're still fourth, maybe fifth in wins all time. And somehow they don't have a Super Bowl for obvious reasons. But yeah, I don't think this current ownership will not allow that. If they're going to go 5-12 or 4-13, it's honestly going to be because they were that bad or had that much of an atrocious season. They're never going to actively try and be that bad.
That's interesting. It's good to get that kind of perspective from a guy who covers the Vikings, because I would have potentially thought otherwise, but I guess I was thinking more of the Jets. But let's go into Justin Jefferson. I know there's
that Jets.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we all. I've been accustomed to like starting to call him like Jay Jettas or whatever you guys call him over there. What were you thinking I was saying?
No, I got you with the Jets. Then you said with Jets and Justin Jefferson. I said, okay, yeah, let's talk about that Jets, because I don't think I want to talk about Aaron Glenn and the Jets.
Yeah, well, that's fair, because I was saying the Jets, like the Jets tanking. And then I went to Jay Jett. Anyway, my bad. But Justin Jefferson, how do they – I know there's been rumors of him leaving, and this is more relevant to me because the Niners have like 50-60 million in cap next year because they had so much dead cap this year. They need to go out and get – I think a number one wide receiver, especially with what's happening with Brandon Ayuk. All his guarantees now are voided. We have all that money from his contract and some of the extra money that's rolled over. And so now you're looking at the 49ers. You would be almost imprudent. I think that's not prudent, or whatever the word is, to not go and poke around the bush for a big time player, a big blue chip player. So that's why I'm more interested in what your perspective is on Justin Jefferson, because the Niners would take him. The Niners would take him, but multiple first round picks probably, definitely. And so, how do they entice him to stay? And obviously I was thinking about this also earlier, is like the contract. I'm sure they don't need to entice him to do anything, because I believe he's still under contract, doesn't have any outs, but he's obviously going to be miserable. And when somebody's a cancer in the locker room, you never want him around. So I'll hand the floor over to you.
Yeah, I think, they're, again, layered. So I think he's owed in total almost $90 million, or it might actually be 110. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he got almost, actually, now that I think about it, he got almost 90 right away, 90 when he signed on to the contract. Trading him is going to be very difficult, and I don't think we're even close to being at that point. It is interesting. I think, and this is not me throwing shade at you, I think national media or people outside of Minnesota, and I could end up being wrong here, but when you're from afar and you see things like Justin Jefferson didn't talk to the media, he looks frustrated on the sidelines. Totally get that. But not everybody sees Justin Jefferson going to Timberwolves games with JJ McCarthy. They don't see all the stuff that he says about, I love JJ McCarthy. Now, granted, he has to say those things. I'll give you that. Wide receivers, generalization here. they always come across as divas. This is the most non-diva at a diva position I think we've really ever seen at this position. That doesn't mean in the offseason he's not going to go to the Vikings and say, guys, what's the plan here? Because I can't have Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy both looking like complete you-know-whats trying to throw me the football.
Yeah.
Now the Vikings, I think they do owe it to him to be honest about what the plan is. But again, I can tell you with Kevin O'Connell at head coach, the plan is not going to be, JJ, tough it out. We plan to give you another incompetent rookie to play quarterback with. I don't think that that's going to happen. Also, there's massive cap implications. If they trade him before June 1st, they're on the hook for $60 million in dead cap. If they trade him after June 1st, it averages out to be like $15 million a year. That's still not anything anybody wants to stomach. I think both sides for at least another year are stuck with each other, but I don't use stuck in a bad way. I think Justin's willing to see this through. The team obviously drafted him. He likes it here enough to sign a long-term deal, which, by the way, at the time, he's not an idiot. He and his representation knew there was no real long-term solution at quarterback.
Yeah, that's true.
And he still signed on. So he is a captain, and I'm sure the coach and the general manager and anybody involved have told him, we need you to act like you are a leader of this team. And I think he has done that. I don't like when guys don't speak to the media. I think you should. But if you have a game where you are super frustrated, you've caught 2 passes for like 7 yards and the team lost, and you think you're only going to make things worse by talking, then I guess by all means take your fine and don't talk to the media. So I really don't see it. This is not a Randy Moss wanting to get out of town situation. A lot of it to me just seems like, and I'm not calling him a lazy, because there are plenty of people that everybody works harder than me. Okay. I'll be honest about that. But I think when you just look at it from afar and you're not living around the team and you're not seeing all the local stuff, I think you just get an opinion of the situation that maybe isn't fair. Now, I'm willing to be proven wrong. You know, for all I know, we could get 3 weeks out of the season and Justin Jefferson's traded. I just, again, going back to what I said about the ownership, I do not believe that that's going to happen. I have a prop or a solution that can help both of us. Okay. The Vikings, if they're going to make a change at quarterback, they're going to go big game hunting. So I will say this, you give the Bengals whatever it is that they want. You're probably getting JJ McCarthy and 2 first-round picks, maybe 3 for Joe Burrow, maybe 4. Let's say it's JJ McCarthy and 3 first-round picks. Well, who plays wide receiver for the Bengals who all of a sudden is going to go, what the bleep? Where did my quarterback go?
Higgins, I wouldn't mind him.
Jamar Chase. You mean to tell me the Bengals, who are grossly incompetent, can move a wide receiver and their starting quarterback, but then still be able to go to the fan base and say, guys, but we got another quarterback and 5 total first-round picks. That might be the franchise that would do it, because they're also between a rock and a hard place. They have no money to spend, and they have no money to spend, and they're not any good. Yeah. So if you're talking about teams that need to get creative or bottom out and restart, that's the team to be talking to. You just need to convince them that that's what they need to be doing.
Well, and that's so true, because, okay, I was thinking, you know, maybe they're the type of organization. Now, obviously, Jerry Jones is one of a kind, but we all knew, like, that Micah Parsons trade, we were never expecting that. So I was thinking, what's the price that you could offer the Vikings that they can't refuse? But that's probably like 4 first-round picks, just an absurd amount. I mean, 3 maybe. For a receiver, maybe 3. But
I think there's always a deal for everybody, right? If anybody wanted to call me about any one of my players, coaches, whatever, in any sport, you absolutely take the call, because 1, it can lead to discussions about other players. But 2, to your point, okay, this would never happen, but I'm telling you the Vikings aren't going to trade Justin Jefferson this offseason. Well, what I don't know is that, I'm just making this up, that the San Francisco 49ers called up and said, we'll give you 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and third-round pick swaps for the next 3 years. Well, okay, that changes things, right?
Yeah.
But then again, if you're the Vikings, think about this. You're still trying to, I'm going to say 60% develop a young quarterback. You don't want to take away his best weapon.
Yeah.
And then his second best weapon, I don't even know if he'll be on the team because I don't know if anybody can trust Jordan Addison. So that's another thing that weighs into all of this. So you said when we first started, the Vikings have a lot to think about in the offseason. I think they have as much to think about in the offseason, if not more than any team in the NFL. Yeah. They also spent a lot of money for guys on 1- and 2-year deals trying to win now, and it failed massively. Jonathan Hargrave, where have you been? Jonathan Allen, where have you been? I mean, you've barely seen either one of these guys making any impact on the field. Ryan Kelly, God bless his heart, 3 concussions this year. If I was anywhere near him, I would tell him it's not worth it. You need to retire. Then you have your 2 star tackles are all Pro Bowl tackles. Neither one can ever stay healthy and stay on the field anymore. That's another thing you probably need to be thinking about. And oh, by the way, even though he hasn't had the best season, your soon-to-be Hall of Famer Harrison Smith is going to retire too. So you need to replace that. And here's the crazy thing about the Minnesota Vikings season. If you know anything about Minnesota Vikings history, you know it's tortured with place kickers.
Yeah.
The Vikings are getting the best season they have ever seen out of a place kicker, aside from Gary Anderson in '98 until he missed the field goal to go to the Super Bowl. You know darn well when the Vikings finally put everything back together, they'll be back to an atrocious kicker because that is just the luck of this franchise. He's missed 2 field goals this year. 1 hit a wire, and we think the second one may have also hit a wire. He's a machine. The only thing we have to talk about this year is the place kicker. That's how off the rails this season has been.
I'm glad. I mean, that's kind of something we have in common because Jake Moody, our kicker, was like awful. And then finally getting Pinheiro is like completely, it's crazy. Place kicker. Wait, that's just a kicker, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Field goal kicker.
The kicker. Go ahead.
I would argue, and I've said this forever, people don't love hearing this, but special teams truly is a third of the game. It is so important to have good special teams units. Having a good kicker might be the second most important player on your team because they directly impact points.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you have a good one, don't let them go. They're just like quarterbacks. There's 8 premier quarterbacks in the NFL, and there's 8 premier kickers. Do not let them go if you have them.
100%. And if you 100% about the special teams this year, there have been multiple games. We get Sky Moore, who was back and forth with the Chiefs, but ever since he's come here, he's been great. We get a new special teams coordinator, Brant Boyer from the Jets. He's been really good. I think he came over with Robert Saleh, and all of a sudden there have been a couple games where the opening drive, Sky Moore will return it to like the 4-yard line, the other team's 4-yard line, and that's already a touchdown right there. And then obviously like the difference between Niners fans know Moody and Eddie Pinheiro has been like night and day. You have Moody's, missing extra points, and then you have Pinheiro over here like hitting 59-yarders, automatic. And we were blessed by God that we were able to get him, and he got cut by the Panthers because he all of a sudden was going through the missing problem himself. But the fact that we were able to get him off the waiver wire, and then special teams, big one. But should we transition to reactions, 49ers versus Bears? Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, go ahead, because I know you've probably been waiting all day to talk about it, and I'm gonna bury a lead for you. I'm not positive that is the last time the 49ers and Bears play this year.
Oh, well, yeah, and we'll do our NFC Championship predictions, but I'm 100%. I think that is a fair analysis. I was saying that yesterday after these two teams played, if the offenses of these two teams play like they did in the playoff or in this game, like they did in this game in the playoffs, I think it might be an NFC Championship preview. And if you're looking through it, like you've got the Bears versus Packers, let's say first round in Chicago. The way Caleb Williams played last night, that was a top 5 quarterback performance. I mean, no picks, going down. It was really truly a game of like whoever got the ball last was going to win, and the Bears would have won if the time wouldn't have expired. Like Caleb Williams has his issues. Like there will be times he'll miss guys wide open in the flat. There was a couple times yesterday, but then in these crunch time moments, you'll have him just along the sideline threading the needle to Colston Loveland or what's his name? Luther Burden was huge last night late in that game. So, I mean, it was truly a battle. Like, I don't care what other people's gripes about Caleb Williams has been. He had a top 5 performance yesterday. And if he does that kind of thing in the playoffs, I mean, it's going to be really hard to stop them. My biggest thing is the Niners with their defense. I kind of want to hear your analysis on their defense, but I don't really see, I've been telling people this a lot recently. I don't see this defense getting too much better than it already is. And that's kind of like, that's the biggest thing. I mean, we're going to get Renardo Green, hopefully our cornerback next week, our second cornerback, and he's a lot better than Darrell Luter, our backup cornerback, who was getting cooked continuously last night. And then we're going to potentially get Fred Warner back. That's been a big story in the middle of the playoffs if he can come back. But I don't really see this defense improving. And the biggest problem, we cannot generate a pass rush unless we're bringing 5 or 6, and it's a blitz. And the problem is that Caleb Williams last night, like that's really what was impressive was some of the throws that he made over the top. He was going through his reads, was hitting Luther Burden over the top a couple times for a touchdown. And we can't cover, like, if we can't get a pass rush and then we also cannot cover when we do bring the blitz, it's just, it was frustrating. So I think, the only thing our way is, yeah, we're going to potentially face a defense that can get a couple of stops. And then what's our defense going to do? So, but I will say the Bears offense is, top 3 in the league when Caleb is playing like this. So
I will say to your point about the defense probably not getting much better, generally by about the middle part of the season, definitely by now, teams just don't dramatically get better in areas. They may have a game where they play really well, but generally they're not going to out exceed their norm for a month at a time. There is an exception to that. The Colts defense, when they finally won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, was largely atrocious and embarrassing in the regular season. And then all of a sudden the playoffs started, they flipped a switch, and Peyton Manning finally won a Super Bowl with the Colts back in 2005 when they beat the Bears.
Wow. I was going to, I think I was
and
that year.
Rex Grossman, there's a name for you. But what I think the Niners have going in their favor a little bit is everything that you talked about. If you can assume that guys come back healthy and they play generally about how they've played in the past, they may get a little bit better on defense. Fred Warner, that's a huge loss. One of the best players at his position in the league, even as he started to get older. The Bears thing, let's not discredit Ben Johnson, what Ben Johnson's done for the Bears offense. Also, really easy to make this comparison, but look at the Detroit Lions offense this year in their first year without him. Now, granted, the Lions lost both coordinators, so I don't think that that's super fair and easy on them to have to, fair, nobody cares about fair, but I don't think that that's easy to overcome. There's a reason why Caleb Williams was the number 1 quarterback in his draft. People thought he could play. It was apparent at USC he could play. It just is always, will it translate to the NFL? For him, It appears like it is starting to translate to the NFL. And yet, to your point, he does miss throws. Josh Allen missed throws his first couple of years in the NFL. JJ McCarthy misses 10 throws a game he should make. That's It's a little bit hyperbole, but guys are going to miss throws. But can you overcome it? And I look at the stupid things like just the intangibles. Do you lead the locker room? Does the locker room like you? It is apparent that team loves him and they will go to battle with him. And I think you saw that even in a loss against the San Francisco 49ers. I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but for the longest time, the last 4 to 6 weeks, 2 thoughts keep popping up into my head. And I'll tell you, at the beginning of the year, I had the Rams beating the Bills in the Super Bowl. Still could technically happen. The Rams are going to have to win road games to do it. Same with the Bills. But it to me, the league is so wide open this year. I'm 39 years old. I've never seen it like this. And what I mean by that is I can make a case of the 14 teams that are going to make the playoffs outside of probably Tampa Bay or Carolina. I can make a case, and I'd put Pittsburgh in that category. I don't think Pittsburgh can win the Super Bowl.
No.
I think 10 of the 14 teams that are going to make the playoffs, maybe 11 of them, you could wake me up in 5 weeks and say this team won the Super Bowl, and I'd say, oh, first and foremost, by the way, I live in fear every year of the Packers winning the Super Bowl. I don't think this Packers team is any good, but what they have going in their favor is I don't think the NFC is very good. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I've seen it. I've lived it. I will always cheer for Sam Darnold. I will never believe in Sam Darnold. So if Green Bay has to go to Seattle in the NFC Championship game and Sam Darnold is the one stopping him or trying to stop them from going to the Super Bowl, I'm not going to be super confident in that. I will say this for whatever it's worth. I'm wrong all the time on predictions. I'm really starting to feel like it's going to be your Niners and the Bills in the Super Bowl. That's where I'm leaning. And then that's the truly something's got to give Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan either has to stop puking all over himself in the Super Bowl. Or the Buffalo Bills as a franchise have to stop puking all over themselves in big moments. I don't think it's just that the Bills go to a Super Bowl or even win one until they play the Minnesota Vikings, though. I've said for years, we need the Bills and Vikings in the Super Bowl between 2 teams that are 0-4 in Super Bowls, and they're going to play to a 3-3 tie heading to overtime to decide it.
That's a scenario.
That's what America needs. They need the 0-4 Bills and the 0-4 Vikings in the Super Bowl. That's what America needs.
So, but I'm interested because I think the Niners making the Super Bowl is definitely realistic. But you were talking about Sam Darnold, and I think we're winning next week. I know that Trent Williams, that was, incredibly unlucky. He's running down the sideline on the first play when we throw that pick 6 and he pulls or he has a hamstring injury. We don't know the exact diagnosis, or maybe it's already come out, but I know it's on a lot of Niners fans. Like, how long does he miss? Now, in his place, I thought we were doomed after that. Austin Pleasance didn't look bad, although he did get beat a couple times around the edge. And we face a Seahawks team next week who their defense is really good. I haven't even yet to begin to look into the nitty-gritty of that game. But one thing I do know, and you mentioned Sam Darnold, the Seahawks shouldn't have won that game against the Rams. Let's be honest. A couple of weeks ago when they had that weird bounce in the 2-point conversion, they had the Rashid Shaheed punt return for a touchdown. Sam Darnold had a really nice last overtime drive, but I'm counting on Sam Darnold to throw 1 or 2 picks. He's not going to play a perfect game. And with currently how this 49ers team is constructed, I think if 1 or 2 turnovers and we can easily, I think our offense genuinely can put up 27 points, whatever, on anyone. We get that first seed, then I think it is a road to the Super Bowl. But here is a scenario, and we can, I guess, quickly cover NFC Championship. Here is a scenario that I think is very realistic. The Bears beat the Packers. the Rams beat the Eagles, because let's say the Rams get the 6th seed, because I believe if the Seahawks lose, they're the 5 seed, Rams are the 6th seed, Rams beat the Eagles, and they go to play the Niners in San Fran. I don't know. Like, that's the team where I've been telling everyone that is a team where I'm the most scared about, because when you have Matthew Stafford, no pressure in the pocket, we don't have a pass rush, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, like, how does that scares me. I mean, and Matthew Stafford proves when he has no pressure, I mean, it's over for you. Like, he's going to dime the defense up. So, yeah, I'm definitely running that scenario by you.
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up the Niners' weaknesses. But again, in talking about this being wide open, I mean, if you start looking through the laundry list of teams in the playoffs, you can start looking at reasons why they won't even make it to the Super Bowl. For Seattle, the defense is solid, scary. It reminds me of the Seahawks teams that went to Super Bowls and won one. So good luck with that this weekend.
Right.
But their weaknesses, I don't know when the chips are down and you need a big play in a big moment.
Right.
I'm not saying Sam Darnold won't do it. He's done it at times, but in the biggest moments, he has not. And he will have a chance against your squad this weekend to show when it matters most, I can step up and play. I will say this, though, and I talked about this yesterday amongst a few of my friends. The Sam Darnold we've seen the last month looks an awful lot like the Sam Darnold the Vikings saw in the final few games of last year. And if I was a Seahawks fan, that would scare me. However, I would say the Seahawks are managing him perfectly. Let's play incredible defense. Let's run the ball. And let's ask Sam to make some really easy throws. Now, can you do that 2 or 3 times in the playoffs and win? I don't know. The Bears' weakness is, and I'm not even really sure it's a weakness, it's more of just me calling out, I don't want to call it a statistical anomaly because you have to create turnovers. The Bears thrive and win because of turnovers. Are you going to get teams in the playoffs to turn the ball over at prolific rates like some of the teams you've played in the regular season to win games? I don't know. Also, Caleb Williams has never really played in a big game. He will play in at least one, many of them, over the next month. The Rams, they're old. they're an old team, and they're without their best receiver.
Stay healthy, yeah,
exactly. And can they stay healthy? Carolina, unproven. Tampa Bay, a mess. One of those teams is going to be lucky enough to win that division. Yep. Green Bay, they're dropping like flies. However, I'm still sick and twisted that I believe until they're dead, because I've seen it too many times. You think they're not any good, and they go on stupid playoff runs that terrify me. But I don't really think that they can win a game, but they also have LaFleur, who I think...
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. If they play the Bears, I think the Packers can win that game.
Yeah. Anything can happen.
I mean, and I can do the same thing on the AFC side. It is so incredibly wide open, which leads me to believe 2 things. Well, it leads me to believe one thing and then think another thing. The playoffs are going to be crazy because I don't think there's much of a difference between teams 1 and 6 in both sides. I think there's a pretty good drop off at 7, but I think both sides, it's pretty wide open. And
Absolutely.
the other thing I keep coming back to, excuse me 1 second.
All good. No, I mean, and you were, okay, you're good?
I'm good. If Buffalo's not going to win the Super Bowl this year, they'll never do it.
Oh.
The Red Seas are parting. You don't have to deal with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You don't have to deal with Lamar Jackson. You get to deal with 48-year-old washed Aaron Rodgers and a bunch and a bunch of other unproven teams. Buffalo, go do it. This is your time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so true, because you have Drake May and like the Patriots team. Yeah. Very young, I mean, we don't know when you were talking about Caleb Williams being unproven, I was thinking also Drake May on the other side, on the AFC side, it's Drake May. And then the Broncos, never been in that situation before. Although I think that like a Broncos team, and I know this is kind of getting off on a rabbit trail, but a Broncos team with the defense that they have, I think it's going to bail them out of a lot of late game situations where maybe Bo Nix falters, but I mean, that defense is just so good. But if we're going back to the Bears and kind of predicting the NFC, that's another thing. It's like the Niners were able to get 5.5 yards a carry last night when CMC has been averaging 3.5 the entire season. And so stopping the run, I mean, I knew that this defense was opportunistic, but what couldn't necessarily stop the run. But literally last night, they weren't stopping the run. They were letting Brock Purdy have a career night. And so if the Packers can just commit to running the ball with Josh Jacobs, if he's healthy, and then Jordan Love, hopefully he comes back. I'm not sure what the situation is there, but that should be a scary matchup. So yes, it is very open-ended, to where we could almost see, if the cards fall right, a 6 seed Rams walking into the NFC Championship game / Super Bowl. But with them, like I said, it's all about health. I think they were on paper the best roster at week 10. But now with the injury to Devontae Adams and, a couple other factors, they lost that Seahawks game. That proved to be huge. And then obviously being on the road is a big factor as well. So, it really, the NFL, it's a mystery, because on paper you might be really good, but it's how hot are you late in the season? So
correct. Well, oh man, I just had lost a train of thought. You had mentioned that, when Seattle beat the Rams, Seattle probably shouldn't have won that game. Well, you can say the same thing about the Bears win over the Packers. That took a kicking, if I'm remembering correctly, kicking a field goal late just to get it. Then Dobbs botching an onside kick recovery, then scoring late, then the massive bomb in overtime. Now, you get credit for winning those games. You absolutely do. But yeah, to your point, maybe the Packers actually should have won that game. And then what does that do for confidence and psyche? Yeah. Who knows? I continue to think, and who knows, maybe the playoffs will start. It'll become pretty evident right away who the best teams are, independent of where the seedings are. But it just, as I sit here today, you want to talk about NFC Championship. We don't know the seedings. They're not finalized. Could be San Francisco, could be Seattle at number 1. Still a little bit of jockeying of positioning to go. But if you just had to tell me who are the 2 best teams in the NFC, I think they're all in the West, and I have a tough time telling you who those 2 teams are, because I think it's razor thin between the Niners, Seattle, and Los Angeles. I really do. My gut is it's one of those teams that represents the NFC in the Super Bowl. My hot take, if you want to call it this, is I think the NFC North is really bad this year. I think we all think the Bears are better than they actually are. Yeah. And I just don't think that Green Bay is really all that good. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, granted, they may play each other in the first round, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we got through week 1 of the playoffs and the NFC North was out of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And I mean, the Niners, it's weird with them, because I think on paper, like, they really shouldn't be as good as they are, and just obviously because of coaching. And then the Bears, we were talking about you said how the NFC North is not very good. I mean, Dennis Allen, I genuinely thought, like, this could be about, like, if Brock Purdy makes these mistakes, whatever, I mean, they're going to win this. We just need to take care of the ball and run the football. But I was like, that's easier said than done, because they take the ball away a lot, and their defense has genuinely been pretty good. But then what Kyle Shanahan did to Dennis Allen and that defense last night, it's like, oh, wow. If really, like, a Niners team who doesn't have George Kittle, who doesn't have their left tackle, can put up 42. And that's really been the biggest thing, is like every single week, there's still so many question marks with the teams in the NFC West, is like, especially with the Niners, it's like, okay, they answered our questions this week, but can they win against a team that can stop the run and that can limit a little bit of what Brock Purdy does, and that does have a really good defense and can challenge the defense a little bit more, the Niners defense a little bit more. And so there's always these question marks. I mean, this is the most confusing year, especially for the Niners, because every single week you're like, yeah, they won, but can they win this way, or are they going to be exposed this way next week? Because there's clear weaknesses, but we just find a way every single week. So it's such a weird year. So
I think also what's confusing from afar, and then I have a question for you, is that at least and again, this is just up here in the north near Canada, I don't think many people went into the season fearing the San Francisco 49ers, and then they had a bunch of injuries out of the gate. But what I like about where the Niners are at is kind of the same thing that I like about where the Bills were at until yesterday. Just kind of starting to play good football and laying in the weeds, and nobody's really talking about them. Today, nobody is still really talking about the San Francisco 49ers, and they're playing for the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah,
I tend to think that sometimes can really favor and help out a team. But my question for you, and I don't really think it has anything to do with anything that will end up happening on the field, but what does happen on the field will change or sway opinions of people. And I guess I'm wondering, give me not necessarily yours, but as a collective fan base, where are people at with Kyle Shanahan? Because I will tell you, I'll pull no punches here. I'm still not over him for I don't even know, a crime against humanity, what he and Dan Quinn were doing in the Super Bowl against the Patriots to lose that one. They never should have lost the first Super Bowl they lost to Kansas City. And I'm still not entirely positive how they lost the last one. So I guess I'm just wondering, what do people think? And I'm not trying to dance on the guy's grave. I think I generally do like him. I just can't fathom how a guy can be so good 98% of the time, and then when he's put in a moment to succeed and a moment to have greatness, I'm not joking, that Falcons Super Bowl loss, I put on him and not Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is the head coach, but he had nothing to do with the offense. And it was the offense that absolutely was running tomfoolery for no reason, in that stop snapping the ball with 18 seconds left. Stop it. I like Tom Brady, by the way, but that was just atrocious. And the 2 Super Bowls they've lost, I don't know. Maybe the second one, not that big of a deal, but
no, the second one was pretty bad.
And I'm so tired. I'm so tired of if Jimmy G hits who's your receiver that's streaking in the fourth quarter,
Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah. If he hits Emmanuel Sanders, I get that it's a different story. Okay, but it still doesn't change the fact you were leading by 10. It didn't have to come down to Jimmy G making that pass. So how do people feel about Shanahan? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, he and in the Super Bowls, like, we're going back. I mean, I don't even want to relive those, but in the Super Bowls, the biggest takeaway is it's almost like he's a troll. Like, you should be running the ball in the fourth quarter up by 10. But instead, he thinks that he's smarter than everyone, and let's just pass the shit out of the ball because I know more than everyone on the field and in the building. And so it's almost like an ego thing for him. I'd say the second Super Bowl, I mean, the play calls in overtime, letting Chris Jones it's also kind of this goes back years, but our inability to build up the offensive line. Now, it's actually looked a lot better this season, but that's part of the reason why, I think this season, why we're I think he's coach of the year. First off, he is playing smart football. So when we're up, he's running the ball, he's doing everything and he's also putting Brock Purdy in ways to succeed. When Brock Purdy threw that 3 interception game against the Panthers, he reeled it back. He started playing more conservative football. He gets Brock Purdy's confidence back, and then he's doing stuff like Brock Purdy's doing, making plays like he did last night. And so he's played like a lot more situational and smart. He's coached a lot more situational and smart football than I've ever seen him do in years. And he's also really, with all the injuries, he's shown an ability to win with a backup quarterback. Whether or not Mac Jones is that good of a quarterback, but it was impressive because we were all out on Mac Jones, and then all of a sudden he looks like a middle of the pack, like an actual okay quarterback in that stretch. So he's been with backup quarterbacks. He's managed the storm with a bunch of backups, and that's obviously been super impressive. But he's also played a lot or coached a lot smarter football that I've seen in years, really. And he's honestly ran the ball when he should have. Like, that was another, like, a lot of big things. And in big games, it seems like he gets almost a little bit pass happy. So I think he's just playing smarter football, and the offensive line looks surprisingly better than it has in years, which was my main gripe on him. Like, why are we spending so little on a position that's so important? But that's one takeaway. Like, if Brock Purdy has a really good offensive line, we should go out this offseason, and I'll say that before I end this rant, we should go out this offseason and build it up even more. Obviously, get that replacement for Trent when he does eventually retire, get a better center, because when Brock Purdy has time in the pocket, these last couple games have shown it, he's an elite quarterback. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope that answered your question, but
no, it did. And, when I look at Brock Purdy too, much like many quarterbacks in the league, and far be it from me to criticize anybody athletically, but he is limited. But what I think helps him is you have a guy who, sometimes to a fault, but as you kind of talked about it, can scheme up a game probably better than nobody in the business, or as good as anybody in the business. And a part of it, when you have quarterbacks that, and I'll put Sam Darnold in this too, they aren't perfect. Well, what is one thing you can do for them to make them better? Make them know in their head, I have more than 1 millisecond to get rid of this football. I'm not going to be on my back the moment I snap this ball. Offensive line, defensive line, again, boring. You don't win championships without good ones, period. End of story. You don't. You can get by. I'll backtrack a little bit. You can get by with good. You can't have anything less than good.
Yep.
And I would say at least the Niners are probably in a spot where, no pun intended, it is at least passable. Here's the thing, too, very quickly on the NFC, and I've got to make an airport run here shortly. I would say this. If the Seattle Seahawks get the number 1 seed and make it to the Super Bowl, I would attribute that to being more of a home team and only having to win twice. And I wouldn't, unless he shows me something, which he can at any moment, I'm not quite sure it'll be because Sam Darnold dragged the Seattle Seahawks to the Super Bowl. And I would say the same thing about, I don't think the San Francisco 49ers are going to make it to a Super Bowl because Brock Purdy dragged them there.
Yep.
He's going to be a part of the equation, but it can't be all him. There's only a few quarterbacks currently in the NFL that are going to be in the playoffs that I would say, if the team wins the Super Bowl, it's quite possible it's because it's that their quarterback dragged them to it.
Yep.
And the only name I'm coming up with, and you can tell me where I'm wrong, well, I guess there's 2. To your point, Matt Stafford, if he gets hot, and probably Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in 10 years from now we won't look back and go, wow, Bo Nix is a Hall of Famer. He's won 3 Super Bowls. Until he does it, I'm not going to believe it. Just like, again, I'm not going to believe it about Sam Darnold either until he does it. That doesn't mean that they won't. But for now, I just keep going back to, if it's not now, Buffalo, when will it be?
Yeah.
If it's not now, I'm just not sure you'll ever get it done. And these windows close, by the way. Ask the Detroit Lions. Their window may have closed before it really even opened. They do close. So when you have a chance, you better take advantage of it.
Really quick before, because I know you got to go, but I will respond to the one more thing of Kyle Shanahan and Buffalo Bills. Here's another thing.
Okay.
If Kyle Shanahan is not on the Niners, who does he go to? He's the only reason why. Him being on the Niners is the only reason why McDermott has a job. And him with Josh Allen would terrorize the league for years. And so, Yes, I have my and one more thing, because you were talking about Shanahan. What has he improved? Well, we've seen an elevated offensive line play, and that was the biggest thing of his inability to build up the offensive line and give Brock Purdy the protection he needs. And that's really been a position that's been falling the last couple of weeks, and hopefully continues to stay that. So
who do you have very quickly? What are you gonna be the homer? Are you going with your Niners? Who do
for the NFC Championship or Super Bowl?
No, just gut check. Or I don't want to say gut check. That's just who do you think? I'm not holding you to anything. Yeah. I don't know. I want to stick with, for me, I want to stick with the Rams because that's what I said at the beginning of the year. But I'm starting to waffle a little bit because I don't like the fact that Stafford might have to win 3 road games, although let's call it like it is. He's playing road games in his own home stadium because nobody comes to Rams games. But still, at least he'd be home, comfortable environment, not have to go on the road. Maybe it's recency bias, but I'm starting to think, and I know I already said this, I think it's going to be Buffalo and San Francisco.
I'm pessimistic. I still think, and I mean, the weaknesses are something I'll get into in another show and further into kind of, and I'll have to go back and watch the game, but furthering kind of, I think our weaknesses against a team that can get a couple more stops. I don't think the offense, I mean, it's really hot, but I don't think it stays that way to where if we have to put up 30 plus points every game, like there's a team out there that's going to be able to stop that. So, and I think that team is the Rams, especially if we face them. There's a good chance we face them in the second round. I still think it's the Rams in the Super Bowl right now. I'm just trusting that Devonta Adams, if he can stay healthy, and Puka Nacua and just what they have going on there. I still think, and if they face the Niners in the second round, playing in Santa Clara, I mean, it's definitely a road game for the Rams, but I don't think it's like such a hard place to play in. So I'm still pessimistic of how far this team can make it just with their weaknesses. And in the AFC, I don't know. With what I saw with the Bills yesterday, I mean, man, it's a hard
I know.
I'm saying the Broncos. I need to go back and do my due diligence a little bit more on the AFC. But I think with as good of a defense as they have, I mean, can they play a game like the Eagles did yesterday against the Bills? I say absolutely, because the Eagles hardly had to produce any offense at all, and they still beat the Bills in the elements. So, yeah.
If, to your point, too, on Denver, it's very possible a young, unproven quarterback is going to win a Super Bowl this year just based off of the sheer volume.
I'm not saying win a Super Bowl, but make it out of the AFC.
Correct. But I'm just saying, talking in generalities. Right, I mean, right now, I think a lot of these guys are going to or are turning into franchise quarterbacks. But if you start looking through the list of quarterbacks in this playoff, you know, who would you say right now unequivocally is going to wind up in the Hall of Fame? Josh Allen, probably.
Yeah.
And Matthew Stafford. Who else am I missing? I'm sure there's another name.
Well, I mean, obviously if you're counting Rodgers, but we've already counted them out.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Rodgers is but I'm
right.
I'd be shocked if they went on a run. So, and by the way,
that's the NFL. Like, I think this is the year where you do see a second year quarterback in Nix or May make a run. I mean, it could be entirely possible. We'll have to see. So
in closing, can you just do me one favor?
Yeah.
And when I say you, I mean collectively, Niners fans, Niners team, Niners players. Don't be the reason that I'm miserable next year. If you get to play the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, or not Super Bowl, sorry, playoffs.
Yeah.
Please beat them. Please beat them, because with each passing win, my heart rate goes up. And as I'm getting older and only more out of shape, it's not good for my heart rate to go up. So please, 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 if you play the Packers, do not lose to them, because I will not be happy. I got a buddy who's a Bears fan, and back in 2007, the Bears had a chance to beat the Packers in Week 17 and keep them out of the playoffs, and they didn't. The Bears then had a chance to beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game to keep them out of the Super Bowl, and they didn't. I still blame my buddy. As irrational as that is, I still blame my buddy, the Bears fan, for letting the Packers win the Super Bowl. They had 2 chances to keep the Packers out. They didn't do it. When you have a chance to put that team down for the season, please do. And if it's your Niners and they don't, I'm going to be very upset.
And I mean, yeah,
this is how much I despise the Packers. I'm not even supposed to like the Bears, and I will rejoice if the Bears beat the Packers.
I will say, with the injury to Parsons, the defensive line does not look nearly what it was. But I know we've got to get you out of here, so it's been fun. I mean, giving us an hour of your time, very generous. Give it up for Ross Brendel, everyone. And yeah, it was fun talking football with you, man.
Well, we'll do it again. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for working with my schedule, and we caught up a little bit beforehand, and I'm glad that everything is well with you. So good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't mind quickly sharing where people can find you once again, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, on the X machine, you can find me at the Ross Brendel. But more importantly, if you're listening to this, you have any interest in Minnesota sports, or you know somebody who does, SKOR North. We have Purple Daily for Minnesota Vikings, Flagrant Howls for Minnesota Timberwolves, Judd's Hockey Show for the Minnesota Wild, the SKOR North Twins Show for the Minnesota Twins, and Gophers 101 for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So there is truly a Minnesota sports podcast for everybody, thanks to SKOR North on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, guys. Well, have a good rest of your evening. I'll be clipping this throughout the week, and then I'll be putting it on the Instagram, the various social medias. And so, yeah, just stay tuned for all of that. And then, yeah, have a good rest of the evening, guys. And man, it's going to be an electric last week of football for Niners fans, Seahawks fans, and everyone watching that Saturday game. Have a good evening, everyone, and stay safe.